not mutually exclusive that if you care about equality for black people, that somehow you're going to stop random violence or, unfortunately, kids from being shot. It just seems like apples and oranges.
No, it's not, you
You
idiot.
know, it's not that way. This is the thing, Don. Black people need to hold other black people accountable. I said this the same thing. This is the Black America's version of the Me Too movement. If anything is going to change, we ourselves need to look at our own communities and look at each other and say, this thing cannot go down.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. He's going to get in trouble now. Yeah. You know what he just said? He said, we have to take personal responsibility for our actions. Uh-oh. We have to make the determination of where we want our lives to go. Uh-oh. He's putting the blame on himself. Uh-oh. And this reporter on CNN is going to jump all over him.
And this is the thing, too. There are a lot of great, great people there who are held hostage, by people who literally are running these neighborhoods with violence and then claiming that Black Lives Matter. When you look at the parents of these little kids who are saying, hey, man, why aren't they speaking up for me, too? And then this is what I'm saying.
Because it's not political. I'm sorry, Terry. I feel for you, man. I I hear everything that this guy is saying. Everything that he is saying. And everything that he is saying is valid.
When I look at this whole thing about, it's about who is controlling the narrative. It's got to be all Black Lives Matter. And what's happened is that because I even challenged it, because I even questioned or warned people,
Terry,
I became sick. Like if I told you to wear a mask,
but Terry,
no, you don't get it. You don't get it.
I want to kick you out.
You're a high-profile person. You're writing things out there. You know you're going to get backlash. You know people are going to respond to what you're saying.
So shut the hell up, Terry.
On Twitter. So I don't think you should be surprised by that. I have a.
You don't think he should be surprised by that? I mean, if he had said something that was a little bit, violent or incited violence or anything like that, I could understand, but nothing that he said would deem the amount of backlash he got.
A skin as tough as an armadillo because of what I do, and I think maybe you should adapt that. But here's what I have to say. The Black Lives Matter movement was started because it was talking about police brutality. Yeah. If you want an all Black Lives Matter movement that talks about gun violence in communities, including, black communities, then start that movement with that name. But that's not what Black Lives Matter is about. It's not.
Wait a minute. Okay, so we're going to have Black Lives Matters against police brutality. Black Lives Matters against police shooting. Black Lives Matters against Black Lives violence against black violence. Black Lives Matters against equal unemployment. What the hell is he talking about?
All encompassing. So if you're talking about, if someone started a movement that said, cancer matters, and then someone comes in and said, why aren't you talking about HIV? It's not the same thing. We're talking about cancer. So the Black Lives Matter movement is about police brutality.
It is not.
And injustice in that manner, not about what's happening in black neighborhoods. There are people who are working on that issue.
I understand where the CNN reporter is going. I really do. And, but I think he's naive. And he has to know that this movement has been politicized. And the leaders of this movement have taken a very legitimate cause. Because we do know. I mean, come on, we cannot stare down the facts and laugh at them when we see that blacks are, black people are much profiled, much heavier than white. Getting pulled over because you're driving while black. That shit happens. That shit happens. We need to be clear on that. We know that. But that is not what this movement has become.
issue. And if you want to start that issue, why don't you start it? Do you understand?
Why don't you start it? Are you? What the hell? If that is important to you, why don't you start it? I'm sorry. I would expect some kind of, you know what, Terry, you're absolutely right here. I mean, maybe this is something that the black community really does need to do. You know, you do have a point there, but instead he's saying, well, if that's important to you, you start it. Well, it should also be important to you too, buddy.
You know what I'm saying?
But when you look at the organization, police brutality is not the only thing they're talking about.
I know that. I agree,
that's
but that's not what the Black Lives Matter
fine.
movement is about, Terry. Black Lives Matter is about police brutality and about criminal justice. It's not about what happens in communities when it comes to
Will you let him talk?
crime, black on black crime. People who live near each other, black people, kill each other. Same as whites. 80-some% of white people are killed by white people because of proximity.
Very true.
It's the same thing with black people.
But
that
again,
happens in every single
I just have
neighborhood.
to mention,
But that doesn't, again, I'm not
You
saying
know,
that's not important that those kids died, but it's a
black
different
people.
movement.
Listen, I understand what you're saying. I totally understand. It is about police brutality. That should never be accepted.
Yeah.
I am not saying that that's not it, but there's more there.
Okay.
And when I look at, if they have more on their agenda, we need to ask them about what else is on that agenda
Right. Sure.
other than police brutality. And that's all I'm doing.
I got
Questioning,
you.
warning, watching. And if that bothers you, now that bothers me.
Over.
You know, I mean, I understand exactly what Terry's talking about. You need to question it. You need to question it. If you don't question it, then what are you? You're just a follower, you're a sheep, and you're a blind person just blindly follows whatever the group is doing. I mean, don't parents tell their children that? You just don't go along with the group just because they're doing it. So rundown on that. Yeah, and I think what Terry Crew said was absolutely spot on. Anytime you start to question a group, their motives, you are going to get vilified by that group. Well, sorry, but that's the way it is.
And that's all I'm doing.
I got
Questioning,
you.
warning, watching. And if that bothers you, now that bothers me.
Over.
And if that bothers you, now that bothers me.
Over.